Luke Cook, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Pleasure, Larry.
I was just reading yesterday that tomorrow, I think it is, in Phoenix, you'll be a co-grand marshal with your co-star, Clancy Brown, of a NASCAR race. Have you ever done anything like that before, and how exciting is that?
Oh, so cool. I mean, I don't even know what to expect. I've been to NASCAR before just as a spectator, and but not the Grand Marshal. And I've been to Indy 500 before, and I enjoy it. You know, it's not really my sport of choice by any means, but I'm looking forward to waving the flag and saying, "Start your engines." However, I feel like I'll leave that to Clancy because he's got a better voice than me.
So he'll do all the talking, and you just post for all the good photos, right?
I think I'll wave the flag, and he can say, "Start your engines."
All right, sounds like a plan. Can't wait to see it. All right, so you grew up in Australia. So what originally drew you to acting, and was there any particular moment or experience that said, "Yes, this is what I want to do in life"? When you were young, and like, where did you go to school and all that before moving to LA?
Totally. So I was actually I was an actor in Australia. I was acting in high school, and I was just doing all the plays. And people would always say to me, you know, I think that you've got something here. You clearly have the itch. You've clearly got the acting fever, and that's kind of what drew me into it. You know, you kind of wonder if people didn't tell you that, what would you end up doing with your life? But that kind of like made me go, oh, okay, maybe I do have something here, and I do love the movies, and I love TV. I watched a lot of it as a kid, and then that's the direction that I went in. And so then I left school. I left high school and I went into a full-time classical training at a place called the Actors Center. It's where Hugh Jackman also went to school. And then after a year of that, I left after. It was a 2.5-year course. I left it and I came to Los Angeles when I was 20. And I've been here ever since.
What was your first major role when you moved to LA? Because you had started in theater as well, right? Before.
That's right. I mostly did theater. And then it was, I think I was 33. I got Lucifer in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. That was my first major role. I'd done a bunch of guest stars before that and theater and stuff, but that was my major, I guess, my break. I'd never experienced anything like that before. It was a bigger role, and the fandom of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, that show, I'd never experienced anything like that. You know, it's funny when you get onto a show which Gen Z people watch it, they get into things so deeply, and also they don't just enjoy the show, they follow you on every single medium that they can follow you on. So TikTok, Instagram, X, they'd probably follow you on LinkedIn if they could. They're just a very committed fan base.
In your role on Lucifer, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, like you mentioned, that gained a lot of attention. So what was your approach playing Dark Lord, and what was your favorite part of bringing that character to life?
I mean, there's nothing like getting to play a character like that because you can take big risks. It's a big, bold character. It's not coffee shop naturalism. That was my favorite part about it. That's what attracts me to acting in general. I don't want to play normal life. I want to play big, fun characters, that are enjoyable to play, getting to say words that are fun to say. My initial entry into that show, because I think I came in the second season. They talked about me since the beginning, the Dark Lord, the Dark Lord, the Dark Lord, Lucifer, Lucifer, Lucifer. And then I entered out of a cave naked. And I was like, that was a great entrance. So I'd say that was a pretty cool moment.
Okay. And in Dollface, you played the love interest of Kat Dennings. So what was your approach there? And is that different from, say, comedy versus dramatic versus a supernatural role?
Yeah, it's different. Dollface is great because I was surrounded by great actors. It's not really what I love to do because it is kind of like a comedy that's very grounded and not too big and bold. So it wasn't my favorite thing to do. However, it's an actor should be able to do all of it. But admittedly, like, not my favorite thing to do. I have to tone down the comedy all the time. I have to do less all the time with things like that, and that's not my favorite thing to do. I like to do more, and they go, yeah, keep going. In that show, I had to do less.
Okay. And in your new show on the CW, Good Cop, Bad Cop, you play Henry, a detective. What makes that character so unique as a detective?
Oh, he's incredibly unique. He's a very special individual. He's described by his father as tall and strange. He's just kind of he is kind of an oddball. He mostly sticks to himself. He's a facts over feelings type of person. He's all about the data. He fancies himself as the smartest person in the room. He thinks that he's the only one who sees the world correctly, and everybody else sees it wrong. And I realized recently that I actually am around people like him all the time. Um, they're the kind of like they're the kid at high school who may have gotten teased because they stuck to themselves and they were kind of maybe a loner, and they would go to the library during lunch instead of playing ball sports. And they were smarter than the teacher in the room. They were that kind of kid, and that's what I love about Henry.
When you ever get a role, do you always approach it like, do you go out and study that actual profession ahead of time to get familiar with that character, or is it just read the
I
script and
I
put your
started
own
reading
spin on it?
Sherlock Holmes. I started reading Sherlock Holmes books because I didn't have long to prepare for the character, and I was like, well, I can't go and I don't know any detectives. I can't go to the LAPD and find any detectives that I could join. So I started reading Sherlock Holmes, who is an inspiration of Henry. It's mentioned in the script, and that's how I kind of like got into it. And then I realized that Henry is a person who loves Sherlock Holmes. He probably watches, procedurals on TV, and he's been waiting for this moment his whole life to become a detective. So he's incredibly precise with how he wants to be a detective. He knows what he's going to wear every day. He knows how he's going to approach the job, and I think there's almost like he's almost performing when he's at work. He himself, I think he's putting on a voice sometimes. He likes to he likes to have quick little, whip comments. And I think he's almost being like Caruso in NCIS. That's kind of an inspiration of his.
Okay, and it was a comedy. There's a lot of comedy in the show. So is there a lot of improv in the script itself? Do they give you that leeway, or is it very
No,
hard, like scripted?
no, very scripted. Very scripted. And because the writing is so good and also the writers are so clever, I only come to set with maybe one idea for an outline that might be funny, but mostly we are on script because I've gotten that question a few times, like, are we ad libbing? And it's great. It's a great it's a compliment to us because it seems like we might be ad libbing, but we're not.
Okay. And that kind of leads me into this next question about your social media following. You have over 1.7 million followers on social media, on TikTok, where you have some original kind of characters and some celebrity impressions. So, what inspired you to create your own social channel and run with it in that sense?
Yeah, so Hollywood. If you're an actor and you're not working, you have nothing much to do. So and you have a lot of energy. You're young and you're excited and you want to perform all the time. And social media is such a great opportunity for young actors, like I was when I first started, to express yourself and push creativity out into the world. And so, I wasn't getting calls, so I was like, I'm going to create my own stuff. And at first, I was like, I'm not sure if this is doing anything or has any effect at all. And now I definitely see the utility of it. Over the years, I've wondered, like, is this a thing that I want to have? Is this like a thing that is necessary for me? And now I look at it and I go, I actually, thank God I have a following because now I can use it to my advantage in various ways. Look at the, I can now attract a crowd to a show, or I can sell a product if I wanted to. I don't really, but it's great to have that opportunity to be able to do and sell stuff online.
Yeah, sure. And I asked this of a lot of actors. Do you think it's easier with social media now to be discovered? Say, if somebody wanted to follow in your footsteps, to be able to put their content out there and maybe get it discovered? Or do you think there's just so much saturation out there that it's hard to get noticed?
There's so much saturation, but there's so little good stuff. So it's you know I would say to a young actor who's just starting out, it's like, fine, go out there and put out a bunch of content. Most of it's going to be crap. You're probably not going to be very good at it, but how else are you going to learn to be good? So I recommend doing it, and you get an automatic feedback loop. If it's bad, it won't be if it's good, it won't. If it's good, it'll be noticed. If it's bad, it won't be noticed. And that's a good, that's a good feedback for you. It's like, okay, well, this isn't working. I'll try something else. I'll try something else. I'll try something else over and over again until you figure it out. And I can figure out, and now I know usually what's going to work and I know what's not going to work. And I can take that skill out into the workplace on a set where the producer comes over and they go, hey, this scene isn't working. Why isn't it jumping? And I can give an opinion or an idea of how it might work because I've trained myself over time to like figure out problems on the go or come up with ideas on the fly. And that's a really hard skill to get to learn if you're not creating anything. If you're not creating anything, you have no precedence for have you got ideas? Have you got ideas ready to go? Are you out to solve problems? Can you create something from nothing at a moment's notice? And so I highly recommend it for actors of any kind of experience level, because it's like, how ready are you to solve a creative problem if one comes up in your workplace? You should be ready.
You're in scripted acting, obviously, and then self-produced comedy. So do you ever want to eventually write or direct some scripted projects of your own and kind of step behind the camera?
I certainly feel drawn to writing and directing. I direct commercials and I write commercials. So I get to see in real time how they work as well. But I think I'm ready to go into narrative and do some of that too. Again, if it wasn't for social media, I would not be ready to do such a thing like that. The only reason I got into commercials was because I created this content online for brands, and then I got into TVC commercials, TVCs, and then I'm like, okay, the next step from here is, how could I direct an episode of television? Could I write an episode of television? Could you write a movie? So I've got a bunch of movies and TV shows that I've written that I've held on to, and I'm ready to push out to producers. And so, yeah, I'm definitely creative in all facets. But social media has helped me hone that skill for sure.
Sure. And something else that you've also done is your own podcast, as we were talking about before we started recording. It's based on health and wellness. So what drew you to the health aspect of it? What made you passionate about it?
Yeah, well, firstly, I'll just say I don't have it anymore. I got rid of it. In honesty, I hated it. Hated producing it because I had to produce one every week and I had to put it out there. And I just really hated having to sell something and try and get people to listen to things that they're probably not interested in. I love health and wellness. I love being healthy. I love, getting fit and eating well. And I'm passionate about that. And I think, we're seeing a movement in America now on both sides. It's a bipartisan effort towards health in this country. And I love to see it happening, and I love to see conversations opening up now more than ever. And I'm super passionate about it. So that's why I had a podcast on it. I also had reach, where I could reach out to a nutrition expert or a doctor and say, hey, could you come on the podcast? And not many people have that advantage. If you had a question for a doctor, and you reached out to them and you don't have much of a following, they probably won't answer you. But if you're me and you have a blue tick and you have 1 million followers, maybe they'll respond. And so, like, I realized I could reach out to anybody and say, hey, would you come on my podcast and talk about the importance of fiber or protein, or could we talk about like cancer prevention or whatever it be? And I was like, this is an advantage to have this access to people. So I should use it. And as I said, I didn't enjoy it. After a year, I got rid of the thing, but I learned so much. And if people listened to it, they would learn so much too. But happy to kiss it goodbye, to be honest. I think it's stressful.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, was there one guest on the show that you had that had an impact on your health or made you change the way you probably think about it or approach it, that had, that impact on your own life? You said, like, yeah, maybe I should think this way or change this, or, whether it's like exercise more or take something or change the way you eat, that sort of thing.
Yeah, there was a few people who were pretty fantastic. However, there's one guy in particular. His name's Dr. Chris Palmer, and he's amazing. He's a professor at Harvard, and something that he came up with was that mental health issues are metabolic issues of the brain. So basically, the way that we eat absolutely affects our mental health. And he has personally overseen people turn bipolar around, schizophrenia around, all through their diet, which is insane. And it's something that it's something that people aren't talking about very much. And given that the science behind it is so strong, it's crazy that they're not. And I think that there's a bit of a stigma around it, obviously, around mental health. But just to open your mind up to think about like that deeply held mental health issues are actually fixable through healthy diets and exercise is insane to think about. And it revolutionized the way that I thought about health and wellness, because you just think about like looking good, just generally looking good, or be able to feel good and stuff like that. It's much more than that. It's much more all encompassing. So I recommend that anybody out there, if you're interested in such a thing, Dr. Chris Palmer is his name, and I think he's got a book called Brain Energy, and it's pretty fantastic, and it's quite revolutionary.
Yeah, that is interesting. I'll have to look him up and see what he's all about. And I've always take health and wellness personally. I like to run marathons. I'm a vegetarian. Like to eat whole foods. That sort of thing. So I'm always interested in that.
Yeah, you look like you got a great tan.
Dan, thanks. Well, I live in Florida, so that helps too.
Well, there you go. But our faces next to each other, I'm like I feel like, wow, I need to get outside.
Well, everyone's like, do you sit out by the pool? I'm like, no, I just run. So, and I'm training for a marathon now, so I guess a couple hours outside of running, you just naturally get that tan. So,
yeah, that'll do it. Wow.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah. So when not working, what do you like to do to get away from it all, relax, unwind? Any hobbies or interests or anything like that?
Other than fitness and health is something, I work out nearly every day. I love to do that. I love to play with my sons. I like to take them outside, get them hiking and things like that. They're only 2 and 4, so when I talk about hiking, I mean like just a walk basically. But hanging out with them, spending time with them, that's got to be my hobby.
And how has parenting changed your life, both professionally and personally?
It's funny to love something more than you've ever loved anything before, and in a more unconditional way than you've ever been loved. And it's funny to think about love through that aspect, because most of the people that we love in our lives are they're loved with a condition, like that you treat me correctly, and that that there's some service both ways and give and take. With kids, there's no give and take; it's all give, and you still love them with your whole heart, no matter if they hit you in the face one day or spit in your face. They've done both those things to me like multiple times, and I still love them equally. And that's a very interesting thing to find out about yourself, is that you're capable of such a love. It's funny to think about parenting as far as how does it help you, because it's really about them. It's like, how do you help them? I mean, it really opens your mind up to how you're impatient, how you have a short fuse, how you need to handle your anger better sometimes. So it's very much a mirror. They're holding up something to you, and also the way that you get to experience childhood again, because you think about life through their eyes. And for instance, just for an example, like I remember when I used to cry. Sometimes my mum would go, "You're tired, darling. It's time to go to bed," and it would drive me nuts when I was little, because I'd be like, "Can you just deal with what I'm crying about?" And so instead of doing that, because I remember how annoying that was, I try to fix it on my end now, because I try to be like, if you're crying, I'm not going to condescend you. I'm not going to say you're tired, it's time to go to bed. I try and deal with the thing that you're crying about. And it's just funny that you can like kind of, if it's karma or something like that, you can like kind of do the things that you can parent the way that you wish you were parented.
Yeah, sure. And one thing I want to ask you, because your birthday is December 19th and mine's the 13th. So being a Sagittarius and so close to Christmas, were your gifts like always combined? And did you find that like as a kid, like, like why can't my birthday be July or something, completely separate of all the other holidays?
Totally, but I was a one of 5. So we had a set amount of presents per person. Like if you had a birthday, you get 4 presents for your birthday, and you don't get any more than that. And that's the
no
deal.
matter when it fell.
Exactly. So I got 4 presents for my birthday. it's actually now that I feel the difference. Like, people don't want to hang out with me on my birthday because it's Christmas time and people are busy having work parties and things like that.
Yes, I know the
Now,
pain. Yeah.
as a kid, it was fine. Now people don't want to hang out and celebrate your birthday at all. It's Christmas time.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Yeah. Yeah, I think now, yeah, it's definitely like the holiday party thing. When I was a kid, like that obviously wasn't an issue. But I grew up in Maine, so it snows there, it's cold, it's dark in December, and it's like, this is a depressing birthday. But then some of my friends had like July birthdays. I'm like, oh, they had barbecues and all of that. But living in Florida, it's not so bad now in December, when it's like 65, maybe 70 out. So
Yeah, beautiful. But we are very oppressed people. You.
yes, yeah. And I wanted to ask you too, living in LA, your family, friends, and all that impacted by the wildfires, everybody okay, and all of that. How has that impacted you and your life and your career and your friendships and that sort of thing?
It was such an insane time, Larry, because it was the start of the year. You just set your New Year's resolutions, thinking, "Gosh, what this year is like an oyster. What could possibly happen?" And then your city literally catches on fire. Of which cities don't catch on fire. This is the thing that has not happened in history, and not like this in modern history, I should say. And just to be here while it happened, and just to see something so unexpected that you live in Florida, so you might be more akin to, or you're more used to that kind of thing happening. In LA, things like that don't often happen, and it was just a real shock. I think a shock to everybody, and the city really came together. It was what I kind of imagined. I guess what I imagined 9/11, New York in 9/11 would have been like: people coming together and loving each other, and the way that everybody in our community, everybody in LA did something for people. Whether like, for instance, my friend who's an esthetician, she was like, free facials for anybody affected by the fires. It's like something that, like, how do you help people with this skill? They found a way to help. My wife is a stylist. She gave away new clothes to everybody, to people who'd lost everything, but she didn't just give away new clothes. She styled looks for people. And so, like, you kind of saw everybody in the community stand up and do something, anything that they were able to do for people who had lost everything. And so I think everybody had a friend or had multiple friends who lost everything. And it's just a crazy thing to watch happen. And it's hard not to get angry about, to be honest. I really had to keep myself from being angry about it, and to think, okay, don't get angry. Take care of the people who've lost everything. Take care of people who don't have the choice right now to, it's kind of like a privilege to be angry about it and yet not affected by it.
It was just devastating to see. I was just out there last year because I ran the LA Marathon. My girlfriend came with me. She's never been to California before, and loved, like, just the nature and the beauty and how different the West Coast is. And now looking at those pictures, it's just devastating to see that the neighborhoods that are just gone. That is just there, and seeing all that. So my thoughts and everything was with everybody there.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah. So what's next for you? Any upcoming projects? Anything in the pipeline that you want to talk about or promote?
My protein shake. I release a protein shake in a couple of weeks. It's called Shakewell. It'll be available in California only for the first few months. It's a direct-to-consumer product, so anybody can get on to getshakewell.com and sign up for updates. It releases in April. It's 25 grams of protein, six ingredients maximum, only 175 calories, so low calorie, and no preservatives or nitrates or any of that nonsense. No fillers. It's just premium protein. And so I'm very excited about that. Now we're developing a protein ice cream, which we're very excited about as well. That'll be low calorie and great ingredients. And then hoping for a season 2 of Good Cop, Bad Cop. Hopefully we go back in about June and shoot another season. And then I have a show called Watching You. It comes out on Stan, which is an Australian network, in September.
Okay. I think we have some listeners in Australia, or at least I hope so, right? All right. Well, Luke Cook, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. And best of luck to you in your career. And Good Cop, Bad Cop, it's now streaming on the CW, and I'm sure streaming on their app as well. And I'll link to all your socials on our website, myfameexplained.com, and in the show notes. Thank you again.